Like every time I just kind of stop using it for an extended period of time, where I like run out of a bottle or this and that, I start regretting it immediately. Like I'm like, oh man, if only I had some, Plus C or Photosynthesis Plus and foliar spray or just a root drench, and instantly like the vigor, just everything improves. Welcome to Organic Cup, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming out. Have you all here. Pleasure to have Scott here. Scott's from Microbe Life. We've been working with Microbe Life for over a decade. They've improved our garden in just so many ways that it's like we've never turned back. So actually, my business partner, Keyplay, he started using Microbe Life over a decade ago, about 11 years ago, I believe. He saw an ad in the back of a magazine and decided to make the call, find out more about what this purple photosynthetic bacteria was about. And he might be one of the first guys to have ever used purple bacteria on cannabis, or one of the early adopters. And since then, we've been 100% behind microbial and probiotic ways of gardening. When I first started at Gage Green Group, my partner Keyplay told me about Photosynthesis Plus and the purple bacteria and how it like helps the plant. And I didn't even know anything about microbes, how probiotics worked, how organic farming worked, and he was the one that showed me all about it, taught me about it, and we've just been really supportive of Microbe Life ever since, because they're not only the first company that we worked with at a time when nobody was doing probiotics, but they've been super supportive of Gage Green Group, and they've hooked us up. We've been able to grow really high quality weed with their product, and we're just really honored. And so we're thankful that they could be here and to support this event. And so glad Scott could be here. We've worked with Scott many times. We were at the first adult use Colorado Cup with Microbe Life sponsoring our booth, and Scott was the representative, and it was just a great time. So we're glad to have him back out. And please give him a round of applause. Woo.
All right, so I guess we're done. So we're talking about beneficial bacteria and its use in the garden, and as a company, Ecological Labs, we make Microbe Life. That's our business, is bacteria. We do bacteria for water quality control, wastewater management, lake and river restoration, bioremediation, and eventually we got into soil bacteria. So this product, it developed from a commercial product, and over years we've been refining it. And essentially it's a blend of beneficial bacteria, so mycorrhiza, but the key here is the bacteria that we work with is different than what you find on the market. We're working with those purple bacteria. They're photosynthetic. They use light like a plant, only more efficiently than a plant. So plants are limited by chlorophyll to what spectrum of light they can absorb and use. The bacteria is pretty much using the entire light spectrum. So when you add it to a plant, whether you water it in or foliar it, those bacteria actually get into the plant, get into the leaf. They attach to the chloroplast, and they open the plant up to a broader spectrum of light, so the plant can use more of whatever light's available, whether you're growing outdoors in sunlight, indoors under an incandescent bulb, whatever you're using, the plant can use more of that spectrum to increase its photosynthetic activity. That's why we call it Photosynthesis Plus. And what that does is it enables the plant to cycle more carbon, more CO2 into carbohydrates. So we're increasing carbon cycling, so the plant's putting out a lot more carbohydrate, which supports all the other biology in the soil and around the roots, as well as the plant's own energy needs, so you get better growth. But we don't stop there. We also add in bacteria that opens up internal structures in the plant so that it can transport that nutrient better. There's bacteria that builds biofilms around the roots and through the growth media, so we call it Microbe Life hydroponics, but it was originally developed in soil. It doesn't care what the growth media is. Works great in hydro, works great in soil. But it builds these biofilms throughout the growth media that build structure and aerate and hold water and nutrient in the root zone longer, so the plant has more access to it. Then there's bacteria in here that actually will break down the fertilizer and process it into a form the plant can more readily absorb. So the whole idea is less in, more out. We make the plant and the soil biology more efficient so that you waste less, the plant's using more of the fertilizer you're giving it. You use less water because the plant will hold, the bacteria will hold the water in the biofilms in the root zone, so it's not just flushing through. And hopefully less pesticide need because you're just getting a more naturally stronger resistant plant. So less in, more out. You get better growth, you get higher yield, you get more potency. Bricks goes up. Everything just goes up. So you're getting more out with less in. So we're just making things more efficient. And the bacteria will support all that other biology. So even the higher biology, other beneficial organisms in the soil, it all builds on top of the bacteria that we're putting in. It's the first trophic zone. Photosynthesizers are at the very bottom, and they're kind of supporting everything above it. So in the soil, it's doing a lot. So it's a soil amendment. It's a plant additive. It's great in coffee. It's a good Saturday Night Live thing. But anyway, that's really the function of it.
I would agree. I mean, like with everything he said, because there's been periods in my grow career, you say, where we didn't have photosynthesis plus. Like we always talk about just water only, and being able to have an excellent grow with the microbiology in a compost and healthy soil, which I have. And but what I've found is like every time I just kind of stop using it for an extended period of time, where I like run out of a bottle or this and that, I start regretting it immediately. Like I'm like, oh man, if only I had some plus C or photosynthesis plus and foliar spray or just a root drench, and instantly like the vigor, just everything improves. So I'm all for like just water and this and that, but the photosynthesis plus is something that I always use. And plus they're Nourish and they're vegetable and yield, and they got some really good products.
There's some other combination products in there, but the Photo Plus is the flagship. I live in Florida. I use it on everything from orchids to bananas. I'm growing bananas and guavas. Everything gets treated with this, and I see it in the growth of the plants and in fruit production. I mean, it'll literally work on pretty much any plant out there. In addition to what we call our core four, which are the products that we make that we feel are set us apart from other products in the market. Photo Plus, or depending on where you live in the country, it might be called Plus C. It might say Photosynthesis Plus OK. It might say Plus O. There's different labels depending on certain state registration. This is the OMRI certified organic label. There's another label that doesn't have the OMRI stamp on it. Contents, the bacterial contents are the same. It's labeling issues. It's just differences in labeling. So if you live somewhere, you see Plus C, or you see someone talk about Plus C, that's the California label, but the product's the same. But we also have Nourish, which is humic and fulvic from rare earth. So it's not processed coal, it's not leonardite, it's actually mined out of the ground. It's natural marine compost that's just been composting in the ground for pretty much forever. So they dig it out of the ground and just cleaned up a little bit and put in a bottle. It's a real rich source of organic carbon and cypress lignin, and 72 other elements that are all water soluble and bioavailable. So if you're looking for a humic and fulvic, this is a really, really nice one to use. And it's organic certified, and because it's natural compost as opposed to chemically processed coal, it just makes everything available to the plants that you can possibly use. Root dip is humic and fulvic and bacteria. It's got a little Photo Plus in there, but we add some additional strains of bacteria that stimulate the plant to produce roots. So it's not a rooting hormone like a gel. It's just humic, fulvic, and bacteria, but those additional strains of bacteria produce enzymes and amino acids that stimulate the plant to produce roots. So it's great for popping seeds. It's great for cloning. It's called root dip because it was originally developed as a root soak before transplant to prevent root shock and shrinkage in the plants. So it's great for that, and it's really just great early on to build up root mass. You can use it along with the Photo Plus. There's a lot of growers that will use Photo Plus and root dip together, especially in those first few weeks after planting, to really build up the root mass. And then the yield enhancer, the vegetable and fruit yield enhancer, is similar in that it's humic and fulvic, but instead of those strains that are focusing on root production, there's some additional bacteria in there that just help push your yield and push your flower. So there's kind of hitting it at the top and the bottom. And you can use one, you can use all. There are people that use them all together. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but in the beginning, Photo Plus can be used really any time from start to finish. Root Dip from seed start for the first few weeks, switch over to the yield enhancer. Nourish can be used also start to finish if you need a humic and fulvic. Depends on your needs. If you're blending soils and you may already have all the humic you need in your soil. But if not, that's a really good one to use. Again, that's what we call our core 4. We have some additional products that sort of wrap around that, and you can stop by our display over in the first tent there, and we have some sample packs and some other literature you guys can have. We're happy to answer your questions. And are there any other questions?
Does the Microbe Life play well with other inputs?
Why, thank you, stranger. We've never worked together before. Yes, Microbe Life, it can actually be used with anything. So it's not a fertilizer. It's got no fertilizer value. It's intended to be used with whatever program you're currently using. You'll just get more out of what you're already doing. So if you did nothing but add it in, you'll get better results. But typically, you can reduce those fertilizer inputs 20-30% at a minimum. In some cases, more. Something I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about it helps with nutrient uptake, and it increases that carbon cycling, but it also fixes nitrogen at the foliar as well as the root. So you're pulling atmospheric nitrogen as a fertilizer, which means you can, in some cases, get 60-70% or more of your nitrogen needs out of the environment without having to add it in. So it also helps the plant self-regulate its uptake, so you don't have to worry about burning if you do have a little too much nitrogen in there.
On the Photo Plus, how many mLs per gallon would you use?
We recommend 30 mLs to 5 gallons, or 30 to 60 to 5 gallons to get started. You can't really overuse it. If you get to a certain point, you'll get that diminishing return. You can't hurt anything. There are guys using an ounce per gallon, 30 mLs per gallon. We recommend starting with that 60 mLs to 5 gallons initially, and then kind of play around with it, because depending on your soil, depending on your plants, depending on your fertilizer program, you may find a little more gets you better results, you may find a little less gets you better results. So that initial dosage isn't like a hard fast, this is how you must use it. I always say if you ask 12 growers how they use it, you'll get 14 different answers. Right? So because people like to play with it and adjust it, you can't. The only wrong thing, the only wrong way to use it is to not use it. At any point you put it in, obviously you're going to see better results and greater results if you start early on. But even if you start using it a little further along in the growth cycle, you'll still get benefits out of it. It's still going to help with that nutrient uptake. It's going to help push your plants.
We believe that our genetics are perform because of products such as these. Like if we had not been introduced to photosynthesis plus purple bacteria, would our genetics be where they are today? Or would we be able to do what we have been able to accomplish up till this point? And it's like, I don't think so. I believe that the genes are only turned on when they're in harmony with the most potent aspects and the most potent organisms in nature, these being some of them, and I believe that when you grow in harmony with potent bacteria like the purple bacteria, you're actually turning on genetic expression. You're going to have longevity. You're going to have less issues when you're using things like photosynthesis plus. I truly believe that the reason why we're ahead of many of the people, our peers from around the same time, was because we had access to high vibrational inputs that nobody else had. And so we're really, we're huge promoters of this stuff.
And speaking of potent bacteria, we'll just remind everybody, let everybody know this stuff really smells bad. So if you pick up a sample bottle and you open it up, it's supposed to smell like this. It's grown in that bottle. So just an interesting note. Every bottle, the process to grow this is a 6-day fermentation per batch, and every single bottle, whether it's a little 4-ounce sample bottle or a 275-gallon tote, is fermented and grown in the container we ship it in. You'll actually see early on, if you look at it, you'll see this slimy stuff floating around in there. It's actually the growth media for the bacteria. It'll diminish over time. But the fact that it's fermented and grown in the container is part of why it smells so good when you open it. That's part of its own preservative system. As it feeds on sulfur in the bottle, it produces hydrogen sulfide, which builds up in high concentration and slows down the life cycle of the bacteria. So it extends its shelf life, because it's actually, unlike just all spore-based products, it's not sleeping. This bacteria is active in the bottle. It's constantly going through an entire life cycle all the time. It's growing, it's dividing, it's dying, it's reproducing. It's just constantly going. So we have to feed it in the bottle. Unopened, this stuff will sit around for years. We say 2.5 minimum. Open, still, as long as you keep closing it, it's good for about a year, which is pretty unique when you're working with photosynthetic bacteria. They usually tough to keep them alive in a bottle for more than 30 days, 60 days, but a year or more in a year. Anybody have any questions?
Is it like maintaining that culture in the lab with like a lot of different bacteria cultures you need to like keep?
We call it we have we don't have we have any of the company brochures in the booth? Yeah, we have, so in Florida we have a 70,000 square foot facility, and we have our own lab. So our own lab, our own production. We maintain our own culture banks, DNA sequencers and PCR, so we can dial things in and make sure every batch is exactly what we want. But we call it a consortium. There's a lot of different strains of bacteria in this bottle. There's a bunch listed on the back here, but not all of them. There's about 32 strains in there. So there's a lot going on in that bottle. And we have an entire lab dedicated to making it and tweaking it and finding new uses.
I have a question. This is the same product that can clean up like waste and.
So it's built on that. So at its core, I mentioned we started out in water quality control and wastewater management, and it started out actually as a septic product to break down organic matter and improve water quality. And over time, we figured out that it did a lot more than that. So it keeps finding new uses, and we just keep adjusting it and tweaking it. So at its core, this is that same septic bacteria, but we've added to it over time and built up on it. That's why the original product that Jeff was using had a different name, a different label. I mean, that was even before this product existed. And then we built on top of that product to get this product. But yeah, it's at its core, it's got those same bacteria.
Yeah.
What are the crops that have been used on?
Everything from potatoes to tomatoes to ornamental plants, flowers, citrus.
To trees and grass.
Yeah, I use it on, it's been used on everything. I mean, it's on hundreds of thousands of acres, commercial acres.
Do they use it on golf courses?
We actually have a product we call Golf, specifically for golf courses.
Right on.
It's just a slightly, it doesn't have everything that this has in it. It's a little more basic product.
Sure.
But yeah, they use it on golf courses, turf production.
Right on.
So it's got a lot of uses. Really, any plant, it doesn't matter what the plant is, it'll benefit the plant.
How often do you use it?
We recommend once a week, at least for the first 4 or 5 weeks. You should definitely do that. Beyond that, some people stop. Some people go to every other week. Some people continue it once a week. I think using it once a week, at least you'll get a nice benefit from it and a maximum benefit from your growth. And you can alternate between drenching, foliar application. You can run it through irrigation systems. It'll pass through a 100 micron filter. I mean, you can use it pretty much any way you want to get it into the soil and into the plant. You can use it.
The way we use it, I just use it every watering. But I maybe use like a little bit less than the recommended dosage. So instead of once a week, I'll just do it every watering. I always have it in my reservoir with the Nourish as well. It's a really good humic fulvic.
How big is the company?
How big? I'll throw that question over to Mr. Richter there. How big is our company?
We have founded in 1976. We have roughly 80 employees in the Florida facility. We have a New York facility. I haven't screamed out that I work in that facility yet. There are about 10 of us in the New York facility. We have sales teams globally throughout the country. We actually have our own production in China. We work for specific wastewater management and lake and river remediation in China, where we produce our microbes there, so we don't have to ship it across the ocean from Florida. Family owned and operated since 1976, and we've been preaching microbes before anyone cared about. Really, I mean, before the environmental revolution came about, and when everyone was dumping chemicals into either the water to clean it up, or into the soil. So we were pretty much preaching religion before anyone even cared that microbes, were the foundation of life. So we had a lot of preaching to do, but now, we're really in the wheelhouse with, growers and environmentalists like all of us who really care about the environment and our output. So I mean, I know but roughly there's about 90 in all employees for the company. We have about 10 scientists in our lab, from PhDs, microbiologists, chemists, lab techs. So that's a little bit about the company. And it was really founded by the original biologist who came up with these formulations. Worked for a company in the early 70s that was a chemical company, but he had all these formulations for these earth-friendly microbes before, again, anyone cared about it, but he didn't want to give the formulations to the company he worked for. And he actually worked at this company with my father, who was one of the founding members of the company, and my father was the national salesperson. And he said to my father, he said, you can sell anything, I can't sell anything. I'm a scientist, but I have these formulations. So they left the company where they were at, and they started ecological laboratories in 1976. And we could proudly say, humbly say, our cultures, our microbes, are used on hundreds of thousands of commercial agriculture crops around the globe. We got into the cannabis cultivation world roughly 8 years ago, but the crew at Gage Green Genetics have been using our cultures before we were even into this market, and we're very appreciative for their support and lending us credibility into cultivators like yourself for the last decade. So plus we thank you for everything as well, and we're always here to support you. And we are known for our hands-on support. So we have customer service agents that can walk you through anything. If you have you're troubleshooting, if there's an issue, you call us and we'll help you. We're not a company that just says thank you for buying the product, see you later. If there's an issue, you call us. Biologicals aren't going into the store and buying a shirt that fits you and or the color you like. I mean, there's a little something different for every grow or every lake or river or every crop that we're on that needs special attention. So we like to give that special attention to everyone, and that's really what separated us from other companies throughout the years. Notwithstanding that our consortium is very different. There are a lot of other microbial companies out there that have, enzymes or, cultures that will benefit plants or soil, but they don't quite have the consortium that we have, and that's why a lot of those other companies are happy when they use their product with our cultures, because our cultures actually help the plant break down and metabolize the other inputs more efficiently. So other companies out there in the growing world appreciate us, which we in turn make their product work better. Because a healthier plant, which is what we're creating, breaks down and metabolizes other inputs more efficiently. So we're just, we're happy to be here. And, you're going to Gage Green event? Yeah, we're going here. And we've been looking forward to this event for 2 months already. So we appreciate you sitting down here. And we have our little booth on the inside. We can give you some literature, to take home, some sample kits for everybody. Conversation. If you have any specific questions, should you not, want to ask us here. But Scott travels the globe for ecological, and to have Scott on a panel up here with Mike, it's very humbling for us because Gage Green has set the tone for genetics and cultivation in this industry, and for us to be affiliated with them, it's a humbling event for us to be at. So thank you.
Thank you, man.
Any other questions while we're sitting up here?
You mentioned you can use this like a boiler and soil drench.
Yep.
Is it more efficient? Yeah, one or the other?
I
Would one be a better application or more efficiency?
I personally don't think so. You might see a quicker response from the plant if you foliar it, but I think in the long run, I see no real difference.
I'd say you want to do both.
Yeah.
Because they do operate on the leaf surface level, and they work on the stomata.
Different bacteria, maybe.
Yeah, there are some parts of the country where they don't want to spray it. They don't want their plants wet, right? So
Sure.
they're like, no, don't spray anything on the plant. So, but whether
Depends, then.
yeah, it really depends on your. That's why I said a lot of different ways to use it. But yeah, you can do
You
both.
can bathe in it
Yeah,
too.
in Michigan,
Yeah,
we
you
have
could.
There's really strict micro patent. Get your stuff tested with the, the passes are.
Oh yeah, you mean
They
like
have the micro.
microbial and yeast?
Yeah.
Testing, yeast and mold
Or you
testing.
have to destroy the product.
Yeah, so that's why it's maybe not recommended to spray your flowers, especially after week 2. Say like you shouldn't spray microbes on there, unless you know for sure that you're not gonna fail any testing or whatever.
And just to reassure everyone where our products are growing, in our laboratory facility, we are an EPA registered facility, an FDA registered facility. Of course, we do our own testing for plate counts and pathogens, E. coli, but that would be very self-serving if we just did that. Everything also goes to an independent third-party lab to fact-check all of our testing to make sure everything is in compliance with where we want it.
I've actually heard now on that same point that somebody had foliar sprayed photosynthesis plus like a week before harvest and had it sent in for yeast and mold, bacteria count or whatever, and passed. Now I don't know how much of a spray or what that looked like, but it's obviously like not failing people. Let's just say, I don't think. If you grow well, like you shouldn't have moldy plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, they're all they're all naturally occurring bacteria. I mean, there's nothing here that's been modified. It's just the trick is getting them all to live in the same place at the same time, which is what we're doing. We're bringing them together so that they work well as a team.
Whereas a lot of products are just powdered bacteria all
Right.
mixed together.
Right, and those powdered bacteria, and some of those spores, some of those same bacteria that you find in powdered products, the spore-based bacteria, they're in here as well.
Yeah.
They're just sort of dormant and waiting for the environment. The key that sets it apart is those photosynthetics, which are vegetative and always active. That's why this is never found in a liquid. You can't dry it. You can't permit. You can't actually put it to sleep. You can just slow it down. But again, like we don't modify anything. There's no genetically modified bacteria here. It's all stuff found in nature that we've just gotten to cooperate with each other. So they don't wipe each other out in the bottle.
And everything is kept in batch counts, and we have if there's ever an issue, which there's never an issue, but for safety purposes for the consumers, we keep batches of everything. Where if you call us up and say, well, I have a batch, this is the batch number, we have retained samples from the 7 years of every run that we make of every product. So we could pull it right out of the lab and we can check and see if anything turned on our end. But usually, cold does not bother the bacteria. So if we're up here in Michigan and it freezes, it will thaw out and will have the same efficacy from the day that it was grown in the bottle. Heat is what bothers the bacteria, but the extreme heat. If it's kept in a garage or a storage facility, 120 degrees for a few days at least, that'll cook the bacteria. But let's say you didn't know that and you still used it, it's basically water at that point. It doesn't turn into a toxin. It doesn't harm anything. So that's just a little nature of the product. So heat bothers us. High heat, cold does not bother us at all.
Put this in some water and let it sit. It's not gonna go bad. Whereas like sometimes you put EM1 in a reservoir, you let it sit or whatever, it'll drop in pH to like 2 or what. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of thing. Yeah. So I would use, but right now I don't use any EM1. I just use this stuff.
So what kind of pH is it?
Basically we'll say it's in the bottle. We call it pH neutral, but it might be a little fluctuation. So right out of the bottle, it might be 6.8, it might be 7.2, but it's right in that range.
Yeah. Whereas EM1, right, would be like low pH
Yeah.
out of the bottle. Yeah.
Have you ever been using it on bees?
On bees,
It has to be good. I would say. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm always trying to get more bees to my garden, but it certainly doesn't hurt them. Yes.
How about compost teas? Use it as a tea, mix it with the tea.
Good question. Other stranger that I don't know. If you're using compost teas and you're making teas, you can add this to your tea. We don't recommend brewing it in the tea. Don't bubble it; you'll lose some of the bacteria. But you can add it in at the end of your brew so that you're getting all of the bacteria that you want in there. The big difference is with a compost tea, even if you start with the exact same set of ingredients every time, you don't always end up with the exact same product. And because you're not producing it in sterile conditions and laboratory conditions, there could be some contamination. You can get some bacteria in a tea that you don't necessarily want. But you can add this into your tea at the end, and you'll have all the right bacteria in there in your tea. There's actually a company out west who buys the yield enhancer, the fruit and veg yield enhancer, in 30-gallon drums, and it's the basis for their house blend. It's actually fruit and veg. They just throw a few other things in. So,
Is it because it covers a lot of the bases?
yeah, it basically has everything you need in it.
Sure.
I mean, if you think about it, yield enhancer and even root tip, it's humic, fulvic, and bacteria. So it is essentially a tea. It is essentially a compost.
Yeah.
Because it's made from natural compost and bacteria. So it's almost all there anyway. So you just tweak it up a little bit. Yeah.
You can use it in hydroponic. I mean, like Rockwool systems, or
You actually
have
can.
some sort of organic base.
Yeah, you can run it in. Actually, even with the Nourish in particular, if you're using a true hydroponic media, which is just bare, right? It's a blank slate. Then the Nourish is really a nice foundation to build on because it's got the humic and fulvic and all those other elements, and the bacteria on top of that. In fact, I just started. I play around with hot peppers. When we were talking about it, I was showing a picture because something. I had a new pepper that was growing and something crawled in and ate the tops off my peppers. But it's growing in a. I just threw a couple of seeds in a block of Rockwool and a little bit of Nourish and Photo Plus, and had a plant that big in like 2 weeks. And then something ate it. But it'll work. Any media doesn't care what the media is.
And one thing I guess I'll highlight that if you take a look at our microbes on a slide under a microscope, it truly looks like a flowing river of microbes. It's constantly going. It's going. And conversely, if you look at other microbial products on the market and you look at them under a slide, it's like seeing maybe a floater. If you're at BHA where you see floaters, I can notice them. You see that one little dot, floating in your eye. That's what you see with other bacterial companies' products. So it's really not active like our bacteria. It's active and ready to go, and it just
Yeah, because there are vegetative strains in here that are active in the bottle already. They go to work immediately. So you add it to the system, and within 45 minutes of adding it to the system to the water, of watering it in, it can be systemic in the plant. You could, if you poured it in at the root, 45 minutes later, if you took a sampling from a leaf and ran it through DNA sequencing, you could find the bacteria already in the leaf.
Wow.
Already working
That's cool.
on helping to cycle carbon. It's very quick.
I want to just hit a little bit on how the bacteria help make the plant a better light collector.
Well, that's what I started with. The bacteria is better at using available light for photosynthesis. So when you add it to the plant and it gets up into the leaf, it enables the plant to use more light, more of the spectrum for photosynthesis, essentially making it a better photocollector. So you're not limited by the chlorophyll to what light can be absorbed. You're actually using pretty much the whole spectrum of light to cycle carbon to increase photosynthetic activity. So that's really the key that sets it apart, is that carbon cycling, that conversion of CO2 to carbohydrates. We're looking at all these CO2 bags with the mushrooms growing out of them, and people that are pumping massive amounts of CO2 into greenhouses to try and get that increased carbon cycling. And this bacteria is actually enabling the plant to cycle that CO2. So all that stuff you're pumping in, this enables it to use it. That's really the key. That's why, again, we call it photosynthesis plus, increased photosynthetic activity for cycling carbon. have any questions, we're here to answer.
Thank you, everybody, so much for your time.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everything we use on our garden, we use on other aspects of our house, including my body. So like, there's nothing that all crosses over.
Yeah, it's not what we do with it, but there are reports